Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call our council meeting for April the 28th, 2011 to order. I'll ask that you please rise for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our most loving God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings of this day that we share. Our hearts, our prayers, and our thoughts go out to our families that are so striving to understand what has happened in their lives over the last 24 hours in other states. We know not why things happen, but we know that they do. We can't question completely anything that you're in control of. We learn to accept, move forward, but our hearts still hurt and ache in the loss of these wonderful lives. God, be with us, guide us, direct us, and give us wisdom and understanding in all that we say and all that we do. In thy precious and holy name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask Ms. Lottie Altman and others to please come forward. Madam Clerk, please read the proclamation.
Whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating the office operations of businesses, government, educational institutions, and other organizations, and whereas the work of administrative professionals today requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office management responsibilities. And whereas Administrative Professionals Week is observed annually in workplaces around the world to recognize the important contributions of administrative support staff and is sponsored by the International Association of Administrative Professionals. And whereas the theme of Administrative Professionals Week 2011 is Passion and Purpose, reflecting how today's career-minded administrative professionals are advancing their careers and the profession as a whole through a commitment to their careers, through improving and expanding their skills. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, R. Keith Summey, Mayor of North Charleston, do hereby proclaim April 24th through the 30th, 2011, as Administrative Professionals Week, and Wednesday, April 27th, as Administrative Professionals Day, saluting the valuable contributions of administrative professionals in the workplace. Furthermore, I call on all employers to support continued training and development for administrative staff, recognizing that a well-trained workforce is essential for success in today's business world.
I can honestly say, if it were not for the administrative assistants we have in my office, I don't know what we would do sometimes. Between Marcia and Lisa, they do such a great job for us in keeping us directed and organized and moving. And it is an important part, it's an integral part of being successful, is having people with organizational skills that can make things come about when they're supposed to and on time, and makes everything tick. And so, ladies, we salute you as professionals in what you do and making life better for all of us by improving the quality of the services that the agencies that you're associated with are able to provide those services to other people. And we'd like to present you with this proclamation and allow you to say a few words if you'd like to.
Mayor Summey and council members, thank you so much for remembering administrative professionals with the presentation of this proclamation. We, the Charleston chapter of International Association of Administrative Professionals, gladly accept it with honor for the 4.1 million secretaries and administrative assistants working in the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Orestes Verge to come forward. Is Verge here? There he is. How you doing, sir? Let me read this one, if you don't mind. Proclamation, whereas the family serving as the primary source of love, identity, self-esteem, and support is the very foundation of our communities and our state. And whereas in North Charleston there are many children and youth in foster care being provided with a safe, secure, and stable home, along with the compassion and nurture of a foster family. And whereas all young people in foster care need a meaningful connection to a caring adult who becomes a supportive and lasting presence in their lives. And whereas foster, kinship, and adoptive families who open their homes and hearts and support children whose families are in crisis play a vital role in helping children and families heal and reconnect, thereby launching young people into successful adulthood. And whereas dedicated foster families frequently adopt foster children, resulting in a greater need and more foster families. And whereas there are numerous individuals and corporations who work to increase public awareness of the needs of children in and leaving foster care, as well as the enduring and valuable contribution of foster parents. The foster care system is only as good as those who choose to be a part of it. Now therefore be it resolved that I, R. Keith Summey, Mayor of the City of North Charleston, do hereby proclaim May 2011 as Foster Care Month in the City of North Charleston, and urge all of our citizens to participate wholeheartedly in its observance. I have a young lady, my brother-in-law has muscular dystrophy, and there's a young lady that comes and puts him in bed every night. There she is right there. And I know that she's engaged in foster care and does a wonderful job and has adopted 2 of her foster care children, and they're her babies. If you don't believe it, you just ask her. And I have been able through her to witness even more the importance of foster care and what it can do to enhance the quality of life of these children. So we're so honored to be able to salute folks that are participating in foster care to make lives for these children enriched, as I have seen in this family. So give that to you. I'll give you a chance to say a word.
Mayor, I really appreciate the honor and opportunity to come forth. At this time, I'd like to present a plaque to Mayor Keith Summey and the City of North Charleston, thanking you for your generous and continued support. And remember, it's all about the children.
Thank you, Mark.
I also have one to present to Councilwoman Wanda Jerome. And I see Councilwoman Dorothy Williams is not present, but
We
if you
will
would
make
see
sure
that she
that
gets
she
it.
gets it. Clerk will get it to her.
This also, we appreciate your continued support, and also remember it's all about the children.
You know that. And he don't take notes on that. I just want you to know that.
One thing I would like to say is that I don't know how many cities that we have in Charleston County, but we represent the whole context of Charleston County. But with the support that we have been given, I can honestly say that it seems like there's only one city, and that's North Charleston. North Charleston, Mayor Summey and a couple of council members have supported us from day one. And with his continued support, and hopefully, maybe, we get support from the other cities that we represent, and we can make, and remember that it is all about the children. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please continue with the printed agenda.
Item 1 is a request to approve the minutes from April 14th, 2011.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 2 is the final reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a waiver for a quit-claim deed from the city of North Charleston to CMMC LLC.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer? Mr. Hart? Mr. King? Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute acceptance of financing for city equipment.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King? Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is a resolution to approve a contract for services between the City of North Charleston and the North Charleston District.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is a request to approve a resolution authorizing the City of North Charleston to accept the fiscal year 2009 Port Security Grant for the funding of a fireboat.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, a question on that.
Yes, sir.
With the other jurisdictions, would they help us with that match grant?
No, sir. It's purely a North Charleston.
Because that would be for the whole
Right.
waterfront.
Yes, sir.
And I would know why Mount Pleasant and Charleston would not participate with us.
They knew we had the better fire service, that's all.
That's it,
Yes, sir.
Can we charge them for services rendered?
A lot of the services that we do, they are reimbursable. A lot of the things, when you fight it, it ends up being an insurance claim, and we are reimbursed by those for the equipment time and what have you.
I had a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
We did this last year, year before last as well. Is this a different boat, or is this just the operation of the same boat that we've had?
We applied for it in 2009. It's finally coming through in 2011.
Oh, so the last time, instead of us getting the boat, we was voting to get the boat.
We were voting to apply.
To get the boat,
Yes, sir.
okay, all right.
That's it. Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King? Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the City of North Charleston to apply for the South Carolina Arts Commission grant for general operating support to benefit the North Charleston Cultural Arts Department.
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Before we call the roll, I do want to remind everybody that our Arts Festival starts this Saturday, and please participate in as many events as you can. We probably offer more free events than any other arts or any other promotional thing for a community in the state. So please take advantage of it, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you at the Loafers on Friday night to kick it off. And I don't mean that means sitting around. That's just, we used to all wear loafers. years ago. Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 7 is a request to approve the bid award for the Brentwood Middle Stormwater Detention Facility.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is this a part of that $1 million plan that we had several years ago?
Yes, sir, this is a continuation. Remember, we decided that the worst drainage problem we had was in that middle Dorchester connector, and this is part of that ongoing project to get it where it needs to be.
I thought that it was, but I want to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Item 8 is a request to approve the Menzie excavator repairs.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer? Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 9 is a request to approve the bid award for the Westcott Park Sports Complex design.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 10 is a request to approve the Main Gate Plaza River Bend drainage improvements.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I think Mr. Jamison asked a question.
Sir. Did you ask a question, Bobby?
No, I was.
You got it? Okay. Very good.
Sorry.
All right. Item 11.
Item 11 is a request to approve the NPDES Phase 2 services for stormwater management program regulatory compliance assistance.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Astle?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item 12 is an add-on without objection. If you remember at the Finance Committee meeting the other night, I told you about the water truck and then the trailer that we needed because we got all these new plants that have come in, and we were able to find a used 2004 Ford F-450 with a new engine in it, and has a 500-gallon and a 300-gallon tank on the back with a pumper, gas pumper, that has also been reworked. And if anybody's traveled Dorchester Road recently and seen the new plants that we're putting in there, we were able to get about 2,000 new plants donated to the city of North Charleston. It would be, I think, ludicrous on our part to plant these things if we're not going to maintain them. The only way we could do this is take the money out of the undesignated fund balance. So I'll entertain a motion to take $31,500, that's for the truck and the trailer, out of the undesignated fund balance, plus any sales tax associated with the purchase. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Estel?
Aye.
Ms. Jerome?
Aye.
Mr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mr. Hart? Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mayor Summer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I do want to
unanimously.
remind council members and the public that our Finance Committee workshop is tomorrow, working on the budget, and that starts at 6 in the morning. What? What time are we going to be there?
After we watch the royal wedding.
The royal wedding starts at 4.
Oh, my goodness.
9 a.m., sir.
9 a.m. Everybody, please be as on time. And I do want to thank all of our department heads for working so diligently, helping us get this budget prepared. And thank God that we're in better shape than a lot of people as we enter into this budget cycle. Any other thing to come before council? Hearing nothing, the meeting's adjourned.